Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights, an episode with Rich Klein. I want to thank my sponsors, Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, Heritage Auctions, Huggins & Scott Auctions, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Burbank Sports Cards, ComC.com, and Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication. Here's the discussion between Rich and myself.
Okay, one last one. This is about mentorship, and it came from Austin Goodman, who's written me before, nice guy, and mentioning that he was trying to sell off some of his stuff, got a table at a show, and he realized he'd heard about it, he'd observed it, but he'd never done it. And he thought, I think it would have been helpful to have a mentor. How do you get a mentor for how to be an effective card show dealer? I don't know that's a defined mentor role other than when I started, I had a dealer on the right and a dealer on the left. I could observe what they were doing. I could do something similar to that. Was in simpler days. So that's one aspect of the mentorship he raised. The other was when he's having these cards he wants to sell and he's not having the success he wants at the show, he's also not having success in the digital world with selling online. And he's saying maybe he needs a mentor for how to sell cards online. And I'm thinking the card show person could be old school and could be older. The mentor for how to sell online, other than going to ComC or eBay and some obvious platforms. But ComC is not a no-brainer from the start. eBay is not a no-brainer from the start. You can do it, but to do it well. So then you need maybe a younger mentor. So my feeling about mentors is I want to get multiple mentors, and I want mentors I can get honest advice from who have been where I think I'm going or have solved the problem that I'm dealing with. So that's the advice I would give him. Because there are people out there doing a great job at card shows and a great job selling without going to Whatnot or some of these other things.
The other, I tell him to do my show, my synagogue show, which is a great beginner show.
That's good advice. So a smaller show.
I would also not just show up at a show. I would walk around a couple shows and just see with your own eyes what's going on, what seems to sell, what seems not to sell. Every area can be a little bit different. Do value boxes do well in your show? Do showcase cards do better? And I'll use the term under comps, but how much under comps do you have to be? Are you selling better players? Are you selling the commons from the overproduced era of 86 to 94 or 95? Because if you're selling those, you basically just have to bundle those and say, with very few exceptions here, just take them. And you don't even try to do them because you're not going to sell a lot of those.
Okay, but you're sizing up the situation like a seasoned mentor, saying you could look at his table and say, you got the wrong stuff in the wrong place. This stuff shouldn't even be on top of the table. If you put the wrong stuff on your table that's a turnoff, people move on. Bad stuff, don't even put it on the table.
There's a very experienced dealer. He does all my shows. He loves the synagogue show. You know him. One day he brought nothing but expensive stuff. And I go to him at the beginning of the show, dude, you ain't selling anything today. And he goes to me, at the end of the day, he hands me the money for the table, says, I want to be back tomorrow. And I said, so the next show, he brought in nothing but blaster boxes. And he had the best show in years he's had at my show. Because that's my audience. My audience is not the Dallas Card Show audience. And I said, you can bring an expensive box or two. I'm not telling you not to do that. What I am telling you is if 90% of your stuff is blaster and 10% is an expensive new thing you want to bring, that's fine. So that's why I tell people to go to this show to learn your audience.
But the other part of that is that you're a nice person. I'm a nice person. And I don't like to be taken advantage of, but I like to help. And so you gave solicited or unsolicited advice, but it was succinct, pithy, terse. Don't do this. I think you'll do better with this. And it was received.
I actually didn't suggest it. I just told him he wasn't selling anything.
I'm just saying. So you were blunt, but you're still acting like a mentor. You're giving him the benefit of your wisdom.
Yeah.
My question to you is, if he keeps coming back every time and asking you the same questions.
He did it. He changed.
I know, but you can't treat a mentor. You can't wear out your mentor unless there's going to be a financial arrangement. If every time he comes, you say, hey, Rich, can you lay out my table for me? you're going to say, I told you the principles. Here, you could do that. And so there's a line. So my friend Austin here, he's not looking for a hand holding mentor, I don't think, that's going to be there every time and be his shadow, just like the mentoring I do is very short term. And then you're saying, okay, you got this. And then moving on, they can come back later and say, I still had a problem with this. What do you think about that? But if somebody's wearing me out, or I'm wearing somebody out on the technology, when I was first starting the podcast, I struggled and I swallowed my pride and asked a few younger people who were very helpful, but they didn't do it for me. They showed me how to do it. And that's what I'm hoping for Austin, is that not to get somebody to do it for you, or if you've got to do it a whole bunch of times for somebody, they either get it or they don't. There's some basic principles. It's like I say, wandering around, seeking advice. I think you could seek a mentor, or you could just say, hey, you've got this table. You seem to do a lot of business. I'm not. You got any ideas for me? And not expecting an hour of narrative.
Yeah, it's really good cards priced right. Sometimes, no matter what you do, you're just not going to sell anything. And that happens too. If you have really good cards at good prices, yes, the odds are good you'll get bought, but every once in a while, certain shows just don't work for certain cards. Nowadays, what? If you sell 10% of your inventory at a show, you've done, that's the thing. Are you trying to sell out your inventory in one shot, or are you trying to go slowly too? So there's questions to ask Austin about what you've got, what your goal is, and how you want to achieve it.
I'm a numbers guy. So if there's, say, 20 tables, let's say it's your show and there's 100 guests. Okay. So there's 100 customers that come in and there are 20 tables there. What would be good? Number one, it's how many of the 100 even stop and look at his table. And again, when I'm looking around, I'm not even going to stop. I'm glancing and moving on because there's nothing there. And I probably could ask, is there anything under the table? But I don't even do that very much anymore. So if he had 10 people out of the 100 that stopped at his table and exchanged pleasantries, asked about the inventory, he shouldn't expect, as you as his mentor say, don't expect all 10 to buy something. But wouldn't you expect half of them to buy something if they gave your table a really good look?
I think that's a reasonable percentage. Oh, and there's a
So
lot.
maybe he's got that and he's disappointed.
You can't control that, but there are certain things I always tell people. Everything needs to be priced. However, if you have a dollar box, you've priced the cards. You don't have to put a dollar sticker on a dollar box. You've basically said this is a dollar card. But anything else needs to be priced. You can't be checking the price on every card. If somebody is really hot, there's always somebody in some sport that's really hot, and you can say, okay, this one card I've got to try to figure out. And I know the market's evolving and it might be going up. So this one, I'm just going to say, ask. I won't price this one. And somebody may ask, but those are the exceptions to the rule. But price the cards and display them to the best of your ability and figure out what you have and what you want to get. If you have $100 card and you're into it really cheaply and somebody offers you 75, you may hem or haw. But if you paid 10 for the card and you're really interested in selling it, you say, you know what? And I'm going to say this in a way that some people may not understand. In today's world, and I haven't done shows now for a couple of years, but I always figure, with a couple of exceptions, everybody who's coming to my table is, I'm going to use the word, trying to beat me. And the question is, how much do you let them beat you by? And is Austin trying to get full retail? Is he looking at what similar cards sell for? There's a lot of questions I would ask him as part of the mentoring process. After you tell me what you're doing, then let's figure out a way to do things. I would not be the right person to ask about how to sell digitally, but I would certainly be a good person to ask about how to sell at a show.
We're price guide guys through and through. How do you price your cards? If Austin asks his quote unquote mentor, hey, can you price my cards for me? He's got hundreds of cards. That's an unreasonable request. However, I've got an interesting thought experience for you. There's two dealers with similar inventory side by side at your show. They're not doing much business. And they change places. And they say, okay, dealer B is going to start selling dealer A's inventory. and vice versa. And they're going to make deals. So immediately they're making deals to see what they can sell. And they're pricing it because it's not their cards. They don't want to give it away, but they're going to be a lot more lenient when it's not their cards. And so Austin, or people like it, he might do better if somebody else was selling his cards because he might be too holding on to them.
This has nothing to do with cards, but it's a fun memory. I had a sports cards friend of mine from the New York area before I moved down here, who later became an admissions officer for a school in Florida. And the North Texas area, the Dallas DFW area, was the first area in the country each year to have college fairs. One night for fun, he did the Columbia table. I did his Florida table because we had heard each other's things so often, we knew it. He did Columbia, I did Florida. And nobody knew the difference.
It's probably fresh.
It was fresh. It was hilarious. Now, I think one person got him on something and one person got me, but basically nobody knew the difference and it was hilarious. But the point is he emotionally attached to any of these cards? When you're selling cards, you can't be attached to them. This has to be business. One of my friends at the show, who I've tried to get you to buy from and it's never quite worked out, his two sons and him, and they treat everything as, they have fun with it, but they treat
I bought
everything.
from them at the National.
Okay, that's right. They were with Clint. Okay, so you have bought from them. Good people. Really
that
good.
was good. And then I went back the next day and they had sold out.
Yes, they're very good at selling out.
You could have told me that, being my mentor, Rich. Although I stayed to the bitter end, whatever that was, Thursday.
Yeah, they're very good
And then Friday morning or Saturday morning,
selling out.
it was gone. What happened? I had my marker here. So that sold out.
Okay, they're very good at selling out. Yeah, you should have just stayed that day. I could have told you that if I was there. But they treat it as a business, and that's fine. If they can sell out and feel they're making a profit, they do it. And if they buy and they sell, and they don't have any emotional impact to any card. And I think that's the whole key. And I think for Austin, he has to check, does he have any emotional impact? Because if he does, then the whole prospect of selling cards is really a problem.
Two last things here about this mentoring thing. The mentor ought to be helping Austin to have fun, to enjoy being at the show and enjoy selling cards online. So then my final point is, he could send some cards to comms. My question is there a mentoring process with a real person? I know at the card shows, sometimes the booths are manned by people like at the National that can look at your box of cards and say, yes, this would be good for ComC. We'll receive them. Here's how you set up an account and all that. But still, pricing your cards on ComC and deciding what to send in can be daunting. Does ComC have a more formal, maybe there's user groups or?
Oh, I think the best user group is the Blowout forums. It's like 1,300 pages. And I learned a lot before I went to work at ComC by actually reading. At the time, it might have been 1,000 pages. I actually read the entire thread to learn more about the company I was going to work for. Yeah. I actually read the entire, all like 1,000 pages at the time.
How much of the gripes? Small percentage?
A smaller percentage than you would think. Some of the gripes were that stuff sold out too fast.
Yeah, that's a real shame. If I was the seller, maybe.
Yeah. But in 2021, there were legitimate gripes caused with shipping. Very legitimate gripes.
Yeah. That's largely been fixed, I think.
It is very largely fixed. The shipping department's doing very well. And I told people there were more complaints about the shipping issue than about how we fell behind in processing in 2020, because people had sent the cards in and they figured it would get up there. They were more upset with shipping because at that point they figured the shipping were their cards. They had bought them. So they were more upset about shipping because all of a sudden it became their cards. Again, the key is not be emotionally attached. If there's other shows in the area where you live, walk around, see what it is, and also see what you're carrying and how you display. Do you want to have a showcase? Do you want to just put cards on the table? Do you want to have cards in boxes? Everybody does something different. You know, do you want to be more like what Roger Neufeld does, which is have stuff behind the table and only showcase cards? Do you want to be like my friends John and Carolyn Stackmuller, who have the first tables as you walk in on the left now? in the Starlight room where they have 2 tables of showcases, but they have their vintage commons are user friendly. Figure out how you want to set up your table. Figure out how you want to price stuff. Understand that your goal is to sell cards, and not every card has to make you a profit. There's so many things involved in this that being a mentor, you can't even teach. I'll throw this out because it's one of the biggest groups out there. Go on the Sports Card Nonsense Facebook group and just talk. Go on there and say, I've got these cards. I want to set up a show. Please give me your ideas.
Yeah.
You don't have to have somebody write you a treatise. That can be mentorship too, is just look at people's advice and say, I like this. I'll do this. I don't want to do that. That's mentorship too.
Yeah, I just think when people ask me to be a mentor, I say no. But if you've got some questions, I'll be happy to try to answer some of them. I don't want to be a formal mentor, but I don't mind spending a little bit of time with somebody. And if it's interesting, I'll spend a little bit more time. So Austin, if he says, hey, will you be my mentor? Generally, being a mentor is like doing it for free. If you want to do it out of the goodness of your heart, if he's a nice guy, you want to help him, or if it's on a blowout forum or something, you're just throwing it out there.
And if you throw it out there, you'll get some questions.
Probably will get some responses.
And that's what you want.